Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
Are we getting Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker again? I'm Ollie Davis. Welcome back, Luke Owen. And this is the WrestleRamble review edition of Raw, where last night, one of the most talked about, well, I thought this was quite an eventful show overall. But the Wrestling Observer just wanted to talk about Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. Dave Meltzer had the line, well, not much else happened on this show otherwise. We got a tag title change. We got Seth Rollins potentially being injured. We got huge pull-apart brawls.
Kevin Owens returned.
Albeit after a week. Drake Maverick is now an author of pain. Chad Gable and Bobby Roode are a team.
Well, that's it. My mentions were kind of split this morning, which I was really surprised by because I finished watching the show and I checked Twitter, and the people in my mentions were either saying this was a great show or it was the worst show of the year. In fact, one person went as far as to say you are going to need to create a new lower rating because it was below Bore.
Would be the worst.
Yeah, they suggested a big pile of shanty.
Nice. That works. Doesn't rhyme with the word raw, though, which is the main caveat.
But I thought, I didn't think the show was particularly sort of bad, but I mean, my main takeaway from it is certainly newsworthy.
Yeah, newsworthy. No, Luke, this is the internet. It's either the best thing or the worst thing.
You're absolutely
right. It can't be in the middle and quite... I mean, it's a 3-hour show. There's enough on there. But there are bad Raws, and they are a struggle to sit through. I didn't think this was a bad Raw at all, but the Kevin Owens stuff really got to me. It kind of balanced out in the middle for me.
I do wonder whether it's because I haven't watched it for 2 weeks, and it's amazing, really. So, I was on my honeymoon, and I was doing a sort of trek around Canada with a group of other people, and we had to have the conversation of what do you do for a living? And that was where I said, I write and present videos for a YouTube channel. Oh, really? What's that about? And then as a 32-year-old man to go, that's pro wrestling. And then you have to have that conversation.
Soon that won't be. When All In is on national TV, it's going to be the cool thing to like.
But one of the interesting things that sort of came up was people like, oh, do you have to watch a lot of wrestling then? And I'm like, oh yeah, well, WWE do a show every week. I was like, they do 2 shows every week, in fact, and then pay-per-views once a month. They were like, really? I was like, yeah, and the show they do on a Monday is 3 hours long. And the reaction when people hear, it's 3 hours long, you're like, you don't really register it. When you watch it on a week-to-week basis, you don't really register that 3 hours is a really long time.
It's like 2 short movies.
It's an episode of... It's an edition of Lord of the Rings.
I always... Not the extended editions, though.
Obviously not, no. Unless there's an overrun.
Well, so far, they could come 2019, 2020.
Yeah, when that Fox deal comes in.
Yeah, just 5-hour SmackDowns. Take that, Peter Jackson. Yeah, it is quite something. But yes, back to the topic of this.
Yes.
The opening. Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels was teased last week. We all knew he was going to be here. Undertaker was reported to be in attendance backstage. So we, kind of got the... You can work it out. He's going to have a match with Triple H. Shawn Michaels is going to be talking about that match. They've got history. So we kind of all knew already that Taker was coming out.
But I didn't see the reports that Undertaker was in the building. Obviously, when I woke up this morning, after I finished watching the show, you kind of look at the news sites and oh, yeah, Undertaker was reported to be there. But I had no idea. So when the gong went off and his music hit, my first thought was it's Triple H.
Yes.
It's Triple H coming out dressed like The Undertaker.
Or a little person dressed like The Undertaker.
Yeah, well, I mean, I assumed it would be Triple H, and then everyone would be like, oh, well, it's Triple H. But then when the crowd reacted when Undertaker first came out on stage and you had Michael Cole going, oh my! And I was like, oh, it's actually The Undertaker.
My man! It's my man, The Undertaker.
My first note was wow, The Undertaker's actually here. This is getting more promotion than WrestleMania.
Yeah, those paid-for shows in other countries.
I mean, John Cena was
lucrative.
there. John Cena was there week after week, calling out The Undertaker for him to come. Shawn Michaels didn't even call him out. He just mentioned his name and he appeared.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about respect.
So, I mean, that must be quite nice in a way that you could, we're all quite jaded, cynical wrestling fans. We like to know what's going to happen before it happens. So, yeah, you didn't know The Undertaker. So that was a nice surprise for you.
Genuinely really nice surprise.
Yeah, I mean, it got a huge pop. And I always love seeing The Undertaker.
The loudest reactions to this show were Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, and Ronda Rousey. I thought they were the ones who were getting the best reactions all night because the crowd for a lot of this show were dead.
Oh, do you think? I thought Ohio were quite good.
Oh no!
You know what Ohio like? Ohio chants. They really got into that part with Alexa Bliss.
Yeah, they themselves were also over. But I thought during the main event they were really dead. I thought during the women's tag match with the Hug and Boss Connection against Moon and Brooke, where they were completely dead. The Bobby Lashley,
how dare they?
The Bobby Lashley shanty thing, all the stuff in the third hour, basically, they were completely dead for.
I don't think that's their fault.
Oh no, I'm not saying it was their fault. I'm just saying overall I thought the crowd were very much dead for a lot of this show. But they came alive when The Undertaker appeared. And it was this felt like a genuine reaction. And I thought this segment overall was awesome.
Well, okay, HBK comes out. That was great, huge pop. As soon as Shawn Michaels starts talking, I kind of was like, oh, it's going to be one of those promos. And it was really buzzword heavy. It didn't sound naturalistic. And Michaels tends to be pretty good at making even bad WWE scripts work. And the crowd seemed to get sapped of energy. I thought that part went on too long, and I was like, "Oh, geez, where is this going?"
Plugging his new T-shirts,
yeah,
saying you have to, plug in the network, and then saying so. Subscribe to the network, and then buy the pay-per-view on the network, which suggests to me that Shawn Michaels has never watched the WWE network and doesn't know how it works.
Yeah, even though he works for NXT, right? So that's kind of a network thing.
Yeah,
but then The Undertaker's big dong hits, and this whole segment was transformed into something
really
very, very good. Just seeing Undertaker and Michaels in the ring, just that visual alone was incredible. But then the actual content of the promo,
so good,
and how they worked around their history together, I really, really enjoyed.
Yeah,
and Shawn Michaels saying, "I stayed retired out of respect for the business, for the fans, and for you."
Yeah. And it was great, and he was about to walk away, and The Undertaker had that money line where it's just was it respect or fear?
Yes.
Because, if you came out of retirement, you would have to face me again. And I thought, that's a brilliant line. It was so, so good. And that's the interesting thing here is that I kind of thought about it at the time, but certainly not to the degree that Meltzer and Alvarez certainly did on Wrestling Observer Radio, which was that they felt that they were teasing another match between Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. I really more felt that this was teasing Michaels' involvement in the match itself rather than a sort of... Because they'll essentially do what they did at WrestleMania 28? Whichever one.
Special guest referee.
Whichever one the Hell in a Cell was, where it was the three of them there, and they did the end of the era, pose at the end. I figured they would essentially just redo that again, so they can do the end of era pose on the ramp.
Because WWE don't like doing finality one time.
No.
They do like to do a sequel to the finality.
But this one's in a different country, so it doesn't count.
And 10 years, almost 10 years after Michaels and Taker had that match. But when Michaels was saying, I wish he developed it more. I know it was subtle, but I thought he could have. I don't think WWE wanted to really address this part, the subtext of the promo, which is essentially, I stayed retired out of respect for you. And didn't you leave your gloves and coat and hat in the ring?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And now you're back.
Yeah, and it was weird as well because he was pointing out to all the other people that have quote unquote retired but then come out, Ric Flair, Mick Foley, Terry Funk, all these sorts of people who are like, no, I'm done.
Enzo Amore.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm retired. And he kind of I stayed retired. But yeah, he never really mentioned that The Undertaker retired, so to speak, but then... and he broke his character then as well because he went out the ring to kiss Michelle McCool and be like, that was it. That's the Undertaker character done and dusted, only to return at WrestleMania again this year and at the Greatest Royal Rumble. But there was another line in this I really liked that I just wanted to talk about, which is when Undertaker was talking about how, you and Triple H have been friends for over 20 years. And in those 20 years, I have beaten you both and I have buried you both. And at Melbourne, Australia, I'm just going to do it again.
Yeah.
It was great.
Taker's delivery and just his presence was so badass.
Yeah, it was.
I felt like this was a Taker of, many a year ago.
Yeah, this was not the Undertaker that was at Raw 25. Remember that rambly, weird promo that he cut at Raw 25 that no one knew? And to this day, I don't know what was about. This was the total opposite of that. This really did feel like that Undertaker that was, he was there to promote a WrestleMania caliber match. But it's, for a network special, for a glorified house show.
So So there was a report while you were away. It's from Ticket Drew, who has become a bit hit and miss, but he said there is something huge planned for Royal Rumble. And if you are a long-time WWE
He also said that for SummerSlam, though. And he was saying that it was going to be Undertaker,
John Cena, yeah. Well, plans change. I'm just saying what's been reported out there. And he has broken some stuff. He has been very wrong on certain other things. But like him saying that there's a big thing for Royal Rumble. And if you the wording of it, if you're a long-time fan of WWE, you wouldn't want to miss this because it will never happen again. And when he said that, I thought, well, that to me sounds like a Shawn Michaels or a Taker thing, because Michaels was teased to make a return a few years ago at the Royal Rumble against AJ when AJ had the match against Cena. Although that was just fantasy booking and it sort of ran away with itself. So yeah, I just that's what I've got in my head now.
So when I saw Ticket Drew had reported that, my mind went to The Rock. Mm-hmm. The Rock being
yes, that was the other side of things. Or Batista.
Yeah, The Rock being a surprise entrant in the Rumble and winning the Rumble and then facing Reigns at WrestleMania. That was my line of thinking. I didn't think it was but then again, I didn't think that it would get a tease of a Shawn Michaels Undertaker match on Raw this week.
Yeah.
It was really cool. I actually thought some Shawn Michaels had some good lines in there as well. He was like, do you realise that I've been offered multi-million-dollar contracts year after year? They asked me to come back into the ring and I never do it. And I like that sort of element of realism to it, of this guy who was retired by The Undertaker and he has been offered these contracts. And, reportedly every year the company do say, one more match. There was that rumor last year, wasn't it? Shawn Michaels, AJ Styles at the Rumble. But he always turns it down.
And not just the money, but loads of wrestlers that he is now mentoring in NXT saying, please let me have that match with you.
Yeah,
I'd love to have the match.
Dream matches. That Shawn Michaels, Adam Cole match we all want to see.
Oh, that would be amazing.
So
well, Michaels said in the past that he wouldn't want to work with someone like that who's similar to him. But his exact quote, I remember it, because it came off a bit creepy, was, the things I could do with Samoa Joe. Because we're different styles.
Ooh, Shawn.
Ooh,
sexy boy.
But should we get on with the whole review?
Haha, it's a Raw review, looking jacked, man.
So let's picture this. Luke leaves the country 2 days before SummerSlam.
Did indeed.
And, you largely stay away from wrestling.
The day of SummerSlam.
And you come back, you watch this episode of Raw, and it opens... Braun Strowman's a heel now, and he's with Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre.
Right, so I actually have been completely out of the wrestling picture. Like, I've not been attached to the internet. There's only been various times where I've managed to get Wi-Fi, and when I haven't been checking news sites. I haven't been checking anything. I didn't check up on Raw.
Straight on Pornhub.
Well, absolutely. If you get that little modicum of internet, where else are you going to go?
Yeah, they're just images. Maybe it won't support a whole video.
Oh, no, but you look at the thumbnails.
Yeah, you can have the thumbnails scroll through.
Exactly. But I've not gone onto any wrestling news sites or anything like that. The only period of time where I actually had some wrestling sort of like recaps or anything like that was because I was going to be hiking up a hill and hiking back down a hill. It was a mountain.
And it seems like a metaphor for watching Raw most weeks.
It was, because it was all uphill as well. It was all incline. And it was an 11.5-kilometer hike. So I thought to myself, I'm going to use this little modicum of internet I have to download some WrestleRamble podcasts, and I'll catch up on Raw and SmackDown before I come back, because it was like on my last day, my wife wasn't doing the hike with me, so I had some podcasts. I had some podcast time to myself. So that was when I listened to, and I had this whole conversation about, like, is Becky a heel? Is she a babyface? What was this all about? But the most confusing one, I was like, yeah, Braun's a heel now. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm sure it's just one of those things that WWE just always, he's a tweener now, isn't he? He's sort of a heel, but not really. But it was the bizarrest thing in the world that 2 weeks later I've come back and Braun and Dolph are like this faction now. And I'm like, what? And then Braun cuts this promo where he essentially says, you people. And he turned on the fans. And I'm like, oh, cool, so he is definitely a heel then.
Yeah, so last week it was that there was an argument, there was a justification for him turning on Reigns, because Reigns, even though Strowman rather fairly said, look, I'm going to cash in my Money in the Bank contract on you. And Roman was like, nah, you can't do that because I've got my Shield buddies and we're going to beat the crap out of you. So Braun, the next week, when he has to tag with him, decides to just leave Roman high and dry and then get his revenge on Roman. that's... And you're like, okay, you're not going to have a heel-face dynamic. You can make it quite interesting and complex. Nope, all of that was scrapped. Braun Strowman is an out-and-out heel. It's, again, you are sacrificing someone who was organically over as a babyface that the crowd wanted to cheer, that you've done such a good job making that role perfect for, but you just feed into someone that you want this other person to get that reaction. It's just like Charlotte and Becky. Like, Charlotte is the Roman Reigns in that situation.
Yeah, and I would say that I don't think they've done a perfect job with him, because I thought that with the heel-face dynamic between him and Kevin Owens was really skewed, because it was just Braun bullying a person week after week, and then, by all accounts, squashing him at SummerSlam, chokeslamming him onto the ring, or onto the walkway.
Yeah, in a couple of minutes. And if you're going to do that, if you know where you're going, make that a double turn. Like, maybe make Owens by the end of it, because I'm quite keen to have him as a face now. I think it's just got to that point. And Braun Strowman could have turned slowly through that feud. But no, it was really ill thought out, this whole thing.
So bizarre. And then he's like, oh, and I don't give a damn what you fans think. And it's from what I can gather, based on your and El Fakador's review, is that's what Becky Lynch did in her first promo, where she was like, you fans let me down and you turned on me, which wasn't the case at all. And then the second week, they kind of dropped that aspect of it, and they say that she is now sort of this, she is now in this tweener role, which is, I think, is, well, according to Road Dogg, that was what we were doing all along.
No, yeah. So Braun is now, he's like even smirking like a heel.
Oh yeah, this is 100% an out-and-out heel performance. And then at the end of this show, where all the heels were beating down the Shield, you're like, with Kevin Owens no less, you're like, there is no doubt in anyone's mind that Braun is anything other than a heel. And it's funny as well, because I was thinking about this on the way here. I'm almost certain in lead-ups to SummerSlam, we were talking about, what if Braun cashes in on Roman at SummerSlam and he wins the belt, and then you do Roman going after Braun and you do the big match at WrestleMania. That's your new Roman Reigns coronation moment, and it's Braun conquering the monster. But we said, but it doesn't really work, because that way you'd have to turn Braun heel, and if there's one person you don't want to turn heel right now, it's probably Braun Strowman.
Yes.
And yet here we are.
And you package him with Drew and Dolph, who, as much as I love, I don't really feel like this is it's quite a contrived pairing.
Well, it was like when the Shield returned last year, and suddenly you're just like,
Kane as well, Braun Strowman,
the Miztourage,
the Bar as well.
we'll just throw people in
no
there.
way you can have three men taking on the Shield. That's unfair for the three men. But speaking of the Shield then come down through the crowd. I've got to admit, I'm marked out here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got Poppy. Poppy in my seat.
This is what they do, man. They're trying to get you to like Roman Reigns.
It's Dean Ambrose's face.
Yeah.
He looks vacantly demented.
I love it. So cool.
Mouth open, vacant eyes. He looks violent.
Well, this is the first time I've seen Dean.
Lunatic without a fringe.
Because obviously I saw him return, but then I haven't seen anything since then. And I was like, man, he does look really cool, particularly in the Riott gear and everything like that. And the way he walks the ring, sort of like cocking his fist and everything. It's like Henry Cavill in Mission Impossible Fallout.
Have you seen that now?
No, I haven't, but I've seen that gif where he grows a beard.
He's good. He grows a stash.
Well, no, because he's already got the stash, but like when he does the thing, the arm sort of like pump thing, his beard grows as well.
Nice.
It's amazing.
So the Shield start to go for the heels in the ring, but Baron Corbin comes out. He's like, no, go out there, jobbers. And all the mid-card and undercard come down and try and separate Shield from the Mac and Dolphman.
Yeah, Mac and Dolphman.
Mac and Dolphman.
Yeah.
And I like this. I thought it was a good pull-apart brawl. Yeah, it was chaotic.
I thought the pull-apart brawl was really, really cool. And it was one of the few rare occasions that they do a pull-apart brawl where they even put stars out there to break it up. Because Lashley was out there breaking things up. Usually they put the lower mid-card guys out there so you know your place on the roster. But it really did feel very chaotic, and I liked that. Dolph had a really weird line, though, when he was talking about the teams that they're more dominant than. Bear in mind, this is meant to be like quite a serious team that we're taking seriously. And he's like, we're more dominant than DX. We're more dominant than the Shield. We're more dominant than the Nation of Domination. And I'm like, of all the teams you could have picked, that to me seemed like it was a really like wacky line.
He's a wacky guy.
He's
Ziggler.
a wacky guy.
It's a classic stand-up joke, isn't it?
He's a stand-up comedian.
Just trying material.
But he opened with the punchline because he said that one first.
Yeah. Well, you got to try material. Try play with the conventions of structure.
Yeah.
So backstage after the break, this whole brawl is still going on, but now it's with the Shield, and I didn't quite understand what was happening because it was just white-shirted police officers.
Yeah.
Not like what I would, not bobbies with the little British top hats on.
No, I mean, I don't know what Ohio police look like. I'm assuming they look like this. But police were putting them into the back of a van and they were arresting them.
It looked like accountants. It looked like the accounting department was tasked with doing something that the wrestlers couldn't do. Control the Shield, and they handcuffed them, put them in the back of a police van, drive them off. And I, as soon as they drove off in that van, I was like, they're coming back in the van. So when that happened later on, I was not like, this is ridiculous.
No.
I'm like, this is fun.
Exactly, this is what we were all expecting. Also, Renee was on commentary again.
Oh, yes. I only noticed that 2 segments in.
They literally had a shot of her being introduced.
I glaze over when I see the commentary desk.
It's so funny.
Like, I can understand not realising that it was Todd Phillips or Michael Cole when Michael Cole filled him. I didn't know that until after the review happened.
Until I told you.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, Michael Cole did the show.
But, Renee Young is drastically different
Coachman.
from Coachman.
Yeah.
So Coachman was playing golf.
He's reporting on golf,
Yes.
I believe, yeah.
Next up. Okay, so this is another thing that's happened since you've gone away.
Yeah, the Bellas are back.
The Bellas never left SummerSlam. So they turned up
Were they
at
SummerSlam.
SummerSlam.
Okay. All right, okay.
And they kind of, they were just in a few segments. They were ringside for Ronda Rousey's match.
Why?
And they never explained it. And awkwardly got in the ring and celebrated with Ronda and Natalya because women are always, they're either friends or they're enemies.
Or training partners.
And yeah, they just haven't left. And Brie Bella is currently the only interbrand star. Because she's also on SmackDown.
Yes, because she's got a match at Hell in a Cell.
Teaming with Daniel Bryan.
And based on this performance, I'm not looking forward to her in-ring work.
Look, I have been saying, I don't know when it became an unpopular opinion to not like the Bella twins. Right?
Is this like the Alicia Fox thing?
Again, yeah, it's like, I feel like a lot of people have been brainwashed that Alicia Fox and the Bella twins are acceptable wrestlers. You're like, no, were you not there? Were you not there from 2008 to like 2013? What they just did, they just ran under the ring and pretended it was the worst 2-minute matches. And that's not like, you could say that's WWE management's fault for not giving the women the time. It's also the Bella's fault for being awful.
Okay, so I'm going to try and explain how I think this might have come about.
Okay.
Because it's very much a generational thing. This is like, there is a generation of Star Wars fans that just flat out believe the prequels are as good as the originals because that's the one they were kids when those films came out. Like I had someone defend to me to their dying breath. They're still alive. But like they would like it was the hill they were going to die on. That Attack of the Clones is a great film, and I'm like, but it's categorically not. Like it is factually not a good film.
I know that another 10-year-old nephew debates are the worst, aren't they?
But it's fine. That was the film. There's films that I watched when I was a kid that I will be like, no, that's a great film, even though factually not a great film. So I wonder if it's just that they were kids when they saw Alicia Fox and the Bellas. So now that they're slightly older, they're like, oh no, they were good, weren't they?
No, I think it's because the Bellas have reached sort of a kind of legendary status.
Oh, well that's what WWE will have you believe. Like their ring introduction was like the first time in 3 years they've wrestled as a team on Raw. It's the Bella Twins, and it was meant to be like this big. Finally, it's like the Shield reuniting. It's the Bella Twins on. It's like Michaels Undertaker in the ring at the same time.
So I'm going to venture into sort of dodgy territory here.
Uh-oh.
And I just want to pose a question. Would the Bellas be so beloved by the fans? Well, not beloved, but, like, get these kind of legendary reactions if one of them hadn't married very fan favorite Daniel Bryan, and the other one, was in a long-term relationship with John Cena, and they got that WrestleMania moment. So you have that build where it's like, this is a legendary thing happening.
I would say yes, because even before that, the company were always really behind the Bella Twins and always sort of pushed them as this big thing. Like when they first joined the company, I didn't get it. I really didn't get it because I just thought they were all
twins, Basil.
Well, no, twins. But that was all I could really see was just Vince McMahon backstage go twins and being really excited by the whole thing because I thought there's now special about these two, and they left and they came back, and my first thought was like, why'd you bring them back?
Yeah.
And then I think that the company just loved them, and here is my reasoning why they love them, is because they appeal to the casual market. The casual market, because they've got their reality TV show. Par example, I used to work for a company, and one of my managers there had no interest in wrestling. She just could not give one iota about wrestling, but she loved Total Divas. And in particular, she loved Brie Bella. She thought she was the best thing on the show. She loved Brie mode as a phrase, so much so that when I went to a wrestling show, she asked me and my friend to buy her a Brie mode t-shirt so that she could wear it. She's never watched wrestling in her life, but she loves Brie Bella. So I think that the company kind of see these two as like they're stars outside of the company, and we can put them on here as reality TV show stars, and that's why we like them.
Okay, well, whatever happened, Brie Bella did botch 2 dives quite horribly.
It was so funny because it's not funny, but when she botched the first one, I think Sarah Logan, she was a bit late on it as well.
Kind of meant to, do a forearm into it,
It wasn't 100% Brie's fault, but Brie was never diving through those ropes. She was so unsure of her footing. And as she botched it, I was like, oh, that's a bit of a shame because it looked a bit silly and it was a bit rubbish. But then when she set up to do the second dive, I was like, well, thankfully she can do the second dive because the first one looked really rubbish. And then the second one was probably worse. And I was like, oh, poor Brie Bella. Because it was bad.
Yeah, so I
think Logan and Riott will possibly add a position on the second dive as well. But again, Brie was never going to make it because she was the way that Ember Moon does those dives, where she just throws herself out the ring. She is committed. Brie Bella was not committed to these dives.
No, I didn't like this match, not just from the result of beating the Riott squad, because it's the Bellas coming back, or because the Bellas were involved. I just thought it was a sloppy match. I did like the yes kicks though. I thought that was a nice spot.
Bit of commentary from Michael Cole, and granted I've been away for 2 weeks, so maybe things have changed, but he said the Riott squad have been, quote, beating up people and winning.
No, that's a lie.
Okay, I'm just checking nothing's changed in the last 2 weeks.
Next up, we got Finn Balor asking for yet another match against Baron Corbin after Corbin sort of pulled a no DQ trick last week and beat him up after that. And Baron said, okay, I'll see what I can do. And Finn is just standing there like a goofball smiling. So he went serious for a bit, but he just looked so stupid smiling.
Where is Kurt?
Oh, so Kurt's been fired.
Yeah,
Well, on indefinite vacation,
right.
Courtesy of Stephanie McMahon.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he returning for Survivor Series, we think?
Well, yeah, for some form of match is the rumour. But it struck me this week about how little he has missed. And you will find no bigger Kurt Angle fan than I.
Absolutely. And I know that for a fact, because I've spoken about he's your favourite wrestler of all time. Also, the Bella Twins will be teaming with Ronda Rousey to take on Riott Squad at Super Showdown.
Really?
That was the match they announced after the Bella Twins, yeah.
Fantastic.
Cool.
But first positive of the show. Well, I liked the opening segment. We fell down a bit of a Bella hole there. Maybe that's what Brie fell into when she jumped through the ropes. Brie hole! And it was Chad Gable is all of a sudden a tag team with Bobby Roode.
I know. This was such a weird backstage thing. They were like, "Oh, we're a new team now."
This is as new to me as it is to you. Okay. This just happened. And it was just so endearingly goofy with Bobby Roode doing his glorious entrance. And then Chad Gable seems to pop up from beneath him and do the pose as well.
Well, yeah, it almost felt like, and I think they were talking about some commentary, it almost feels like the story they're telling at the moment is that Gable can't get into the spotlight. So that Bobby Roode is a bigger star than he, and he's always and that was told throughout the match as well, like he blind tagged himself in. Because I'll be honest with you, if if the story you're telling is that Roode is the biggest star and Gable is trying to get the spotlight, I wouldn't have booked the match that Gable runs wild, Roode tags in, gets beaten up, Gable tags himself back in and wins the match for them. Because Roode did nout in this match.
But Chad did everything.
Chad was awesome in this match.
Do you remember there was a period, I think it was last year, where Cesaro was just on this tear of hot tags, where the entire of Raw would just be building up to a Cesaro hot tag, and he'd take out like 7 people in one fluid run in and out of the ring. That's what Gable did here. Runs over to the corner, hops over onto the apron, rolling senton to take out one guy, back up to the turnbuckle, dropkick on the other. Chaos Theory for the win.
This was so good. And my notes are essentially like, why isn't Gable a bigger star? I was like, in any other promotion, he'd be pushed as a top guy.
Because he's a short man. He's
a
little short guy.
Yeah, and it was weird as well. I was like, okay, can we quickly talk about Connor's promo beforehand, though?
Yeah, okay.
So Connor says that Bobby Roode couldn't make it in the singles division, so he's now had to move into the tag team division. And then he calls Gable a sawed-off duck butt. That screams to me that's a backstage joke.
Yeah.
That they thought that they would put, and like, but the audience just didn't react to it at all. And then the commentators went, no idea what that was about.
Duck butt.
A sawed-off duck butt.
Yeah, like a sawed-off shotgun?
Is there a WWE.com series that we've missed?
Probably with Mike Rome doing something. Yeah. So this is promising. I like that they're focusing on the tag division. That was kind of one of the underlying stories of this show. And they're making this new act. And hopefully Chad and Bobby could become this pretty good team together. And it, sort of builds it perfectly for an eventual Roode heel turn on Chad.
Or Chad heel turn on him, possibly. It could go either way. But what I really liked about this is that Roode had the biggest smile on his face after he won. The way that he was smiling wasn't like, hey, we won. It smiling was like, I found my lottery ticket. I found a winning lottery ticket in Chad Gable. This could be my path to success.
Which would neatly fuel a heel character.
Yeah.
I'm just going to use you. You do all the work. And Chad's like the preppy
and I've got
guy. I just want to help out.
But it's my entrance. We come out to my music. You're not allowed in my spotlight.
Yeah. I really hope that's the direction they go in.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So this was very, very good. Elias next. This is something again that's been happening since you've been away. Elias will come out, do his song shtick, and then women will come out, and it will turn into a Natalya match.
Amazing.
It happened with Trish Stratus last week.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I did believe.
And it turned into a Natalya match.
I'll be honest with you, when the Riott Squad were in the ring, I was like, it's going to be Bayley and Banks, isn't it? Nothing's changed.
No, that's changed.
That's changed.
Not that they're doing anything.
They've just moved on.
They're focusing on that next star of the women's division, Dana Brooke, instead.
We'll come on to that. But yeah, so he was singing a song, but I did like it when he was like, I don't advocate women hitting men. And then I was like, and Trish embarrassed herself last week, which I thought was a really funny line. And then cut a promo on Christopher Columbus and your local sports team.
Yes. Yeah, it was good. And hometown gal Alexa Bliss comes out and she's
in a Ohio t-shirt. She's got a specific t-shirt for her hometown.
She was doing, I would say, the shtick that Bliss does better than anyone else on the roster.
Yeah.
I don't like Carmella does it kind of annoyingly, but Bliss is very good at it.
So good at it.
Which is, I'm going to cut a babyface promo for once. Just this little moment. I'm still a heel. Columbus sucks. Yeah. Couldn't wait to get out of this place.
I wonder why that's why I could never get on with Carmella as champion, because Bliss was just doing it so much better.
Yeah.
Could be.
Possibly.
Yeah. And that character makes no sense.
So Bliss kind of starts to flirt with Elias, saying that she wants to walk with Elias. Mike Rome, poor guy. And,
is that another WWE.com thing?
It's another WWE.com thing. And then Ronda comes out with Natalya. And then it turns into Bliss versus Natalya. They have an okay match, I thought.
I really like the finish with Bliss hitting her DDT, not going for the pinfall, and instead locking in an armbar.
Looking right at Ronda Rousey at ringside, of course, building up that rematch. And there was a spot where Bliss just did a punch, and it floored Natalya.
Yeah.
I like that.
But Corey called Alexa, quote, a sports person. And then everyone sort of made fun of Corey for calling her a sports person. And I thought, even when Coachman's not there, his presence is felt.
Yeah. You can't say sportswoman. It's a sports person. It's a gender neutral.
But I don't think a sports person's not a thing. And that's why everyone was making fun of him.
Make it a thing.
Because he was like, she's a brilliant sports person.
So, yeah, this turns into Ronda coming in to help Natalya. Stuff happens, and then Ronda destroys Alicia Fox.
Well, okay, so Bliss attacked Ronda. I mean, my notes read here. Bliss attacks Ronda, she fights back. Fox gets in, Ronda fights back. Alexa attacks again, Ronda fights back and stands tall. And I think you and Laurie might have, because bearing in mind when I was listening to the podcasts, obviously you were very entertaining on on all the 4 of them that I listened to. But I was also walking up a hill and trying to focus on not dying.
Sure.
So a lot of my, not my attention was on everything. But you're talking about how Ronda being built as the star of the division is kind of hurting the rest of the Raw women's landscape.
Yes.
And that kind of really felt this here. And this is why I really didn't think that Ronda should have won the belt at SummerSlam, because I thought there's more money and more interest in her in the chase than there is as her as champion. Because at the moment now it just appears to be, particularly on this final segment, she is champion and no one is as good as her.
Totally. That's totally what it is. And also it means that we have to do a dance routine, which is frustrating.
If only we'd said that Charlotte would win, which...
it wouldn't have helped.
It would have tied us.
Would have tied, I guess. Fox kind of sells the arm thing really quite stupidly.
You can't say negative things about Alicia Fox. She is a stalwart. She is a figure post of this division.
So she's kind of backing up the ramp in tears, vibrating, it seems. But yeah, whatever. Then we get Baron Corbin backstage with McDolphman, and McDolph want a tag title match, and Corbin says, well, the Revival are already going to take on the B team, so, I mean, unless they were unable to compete.
Yeah, it felt like this was out of order, because they were like, oh, we heard the Revival were injured. Corbin was like, no, I've heard that they're fine. I was like, well, if anything happened to them, what would happen then?
It was okay.
It was okay. Actually, do you know what? I'll say I really like this. I thought of Mac and Dolph essentially going what if something was to happen to the Revival? And Corbin, being the heel authority figure, was like, well, I mean, if that were to happen, then things would probably change. But, I mean, I'm not saying they could happen. I'm just saying if it was to happen.
That Corbin is actually quite a good heel authority figure. Yeah. He's really kind of making Raw quite corrupt in a logical way.
Yeah.
I like the storytelling here.
I was a big fan of this.
Yeah, way prefer it to Kurt and Baron. This is much better.
Or Stephanie.
So the Revival are having an interview next with Charlie Caruso backstage ahead of their title match. But Mac and Dolph come in from nowhere and start destroying them, throw them into production boxes. And for the B team are in the ring, so McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler come out.
Yeah, and it was a really good-looking beatdown as well. It didn't get a lot of heat, but I thought it was a really awesome beatdown.
Yeah, the ensuing match was fine. I liked how they gave B Team some plucky comeback stuff and they teased the roll-up wins. But in the end, Mac and Dolph killed Curtis Axel.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. If that was the finish they were going to do, why didn't they just do it as because they at the start of the show they said it was we're the most dominant team. We're going to be the more dominant DX, more dominant than the Shield, and then they were really beaten up for a long time by the B Team of all people. I just thought that if you're going to do this as we're a really dominant force, particularly with what you had at the end, just have them win really quickly.
Yeah, like a squash thing.
They're comedy geeks. Just squash them. So that's my only criticism of this. Positive, though, they're not champions anymore. Now Mac and Dolph are the champions. And also, it elevates the Revival off the back of that as well, because now the Revival would seemingly go into a program with Mac and Dolph, because they screwed them out of their tag team title shot, which, by all accounts, they should have won because they've been beating them week in, week out on Raw since SummerSlam, if I remember.
That is correct.
So that now puts and these guys are being positioned with the Shield and all these top guys. So now the Revival are in that position as well. So I think that's a good thing.
And you've got Gable and Roode and the Authors of Pain, who we'll come on to. I didn't mind the B team getting a fight back. I quite enjoyed it, even though I'm not keen on the B team. I hate their entrance music. I hate that we've gone into this place with the tag division. But I did appreciate them trying to keep their belts and staving off these bullies. I always get into a sort of overcoming the bullies storyline. But yes, next up, sort of continuing with this revamp of the tag division, a soft reboot, the Authors of Pain come out with their new member, Drake Maverick.
Well, he's not a member. He's a manager. Because clearly the office have decided, it's not what these Authors of Pain lads are missing. They're missing a manager. If only they didn't come pre-packaged with one when they were called up. That was my only thought I had of this. It's I mean, you had a manager already there, right?
Yeah.
Why didn't you just have Paul Ellering with them?
Yeah,
But now it's
completely ridiculous.
It's Drake Maverick, but it's not Drake. It's not babyface 205 Live general manager Drake Maverick. This is heel Drake Maverick, dressed up like an author of pain. Why isn't he in his wacky suits?
I have no idea what they were going for here, and I am interested, and I think this has potential. So I'm not writing it off completely, but as a first outing, what were they thinking? If they're thinking, oh, Drake Maverick dresses a little bit wacky, we don't want to have that look with the Authors of Pain who are serious and dominating monsters. This is worse. Having him dressed up like a mini-me version of Ackerman Razor makes him look stupid.
Yeah. Do you remember when Kurt Angle came out dressed like the Shield? And everyone was like, oh, that's a bit goofy, isn't it?
Yes.
You look well
That's
ridiculous.
exactly what it looked like. And you say that this wasn't 205 Live general manager Drake Maverick. Tell Drake Maverick that, because his whole promo was, I am 205 Live general manager Drake Maverick, and I am now also the manager of the Authors of Pain, who are like the opposite of 205 Live.
My favourite thing about this was that, so it cuts backstage and Authors of Pain are walking with Drake Maverick in between them. And the commentators are going, what's Drake Maverick doing with the Authors of Pain? And then Drake Maverick grabs the microphone when they're in the ring and they're like, oh, great, we're going to get a reason for this. And Drake went, I'm now the manager of the Authors of Pain. And we're like, okay, I guess that's the reason then.
Yeah.
There was no reason. He's just the manager now.
That's the problem. Authors of Pain and Drake Maverick are so good, I reckon they can make this work.
100%.
But I just wish we wouldn't have been... We would have been given a little bit more.
A reason, for example.
A reason, just have something of, Drake approaches them backstage as they're beating up some 205 Live guys. I don't know, anything. Anything would have been better than nothing here.
Drake with Bobby and Gable would have made more sense.
Yes, totally.
But it was really weird. I wish he wasn't dressed like with the Authors of Pain. But on the plus side, and I am taking this as a massive, massive positive, aside from Authors of Pain being taken seriously and getting a bit of a push, I'm also, I know I've been away for 2 weeks, I'm also glad there wasn't any NXT call-ups following SummerSlam, because let's focus on the ones you've not actually done anything with yet. So, plus side, glad the Authors of Pain are finally getting something. But B, they're not facing Titus Worldwide anymore. That's, for me, thumbs up all round.
Squashing jobbers instead.
Yeah.
So, hopefully next week they would have figured out what they're doing here and it doesn't look as stupid. Then we got Ronda and the Bellas backstage where, Ronda is chatting to Natalya because they're best friends. And then the Bellas come in and are like, hey, if you need any help with anything, training, how to run your own business,
how to write a book,
just let us know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Ronda's like, oh, thanks, girls. That's so sweet. And the Bellas walk off. And, oh, my God, it's so, so lovely backstage with the baby faces of the women's division.
Well, Nikki's turning heel, right?
Yeah. Well, that seems to be the way. The big rumoured match is Ronda Rousey and Nikki Bella at Evolution because... mainstream.
The Bella Twins are stars. Natty also had a line here which said she doesn't feel herself at the moment. And she sort of just walked off. Did she lose last week?
I can't. I think she won, didn't she? Off of the back of her father's death.
Oh, yeah?
It was kind of it was a nice moment in Canada as well.
Oh, well, that is quite a nice moment.
Yeah. So I don't care about any of the women's division really. It's not engaging at all, and it's actually quite insulting. It was interesting as part of all the Starcast stuff over the weekend, the Wrestling Observer did a live Q&A session, and one of the people who got up was a lady person who has gotten into wrestling as an adult, which is quite a curious thing. And she's like, I like wrestling, I like indie wrestling. I want to find female wrestling though that isn't written by men. Because I feel like all the WWE stuff is just like who's friends with who, and it feels really just kind of underlying misogynistic in a way. And that's what it's nice to hear that, because that's what we've been saying for months now.
Yep.
And Meltzer just said Stardom. Go and watch Stardom in Japan, because that's kind of written by women. It's like she raised a really good point. The women's division is kind of like what a juvenile teenage boy would think what women and men would want to see from a women's feud and storyline.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like films that are sort of about female characters or female friendships that are written by men. They don't feel like actual real life women relationships. And I think that really is an underlying problem within WWE, is that every single person on the writing staff has a penis. Every person who is sort of in control of sort of like production and everything probably has a penis as well.
And Randy Orton is going around shaking hands.
Yes.
So it's not the most conducive environment for anyone other than someone with a penis.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that female writers are so needed. And I know, and it's not to say that we talked about this on old movie podcasts, that you shouldn't just hire women so they can write women's segments. You should have them just so you can bounce off ideas. Women can also write men's segments.
Yes.
But also men can write a women's segment but have some input from a female writer. Be like, well, actually, from a female perspective, I would do it this way.
Yeah, just get ideas from all genders.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Absolutely not.
That is, it's a real problem in WWE.
It really is.
Then we had the Shawn Michaels stuff. Then Finn Balor comes in and Baron Corbin says, I can't do the main event tonight, so you're going to face Braun Strowman. And I'm like, okay, that's much better. I'd had no interest in seeing Corbin and Balor again.
As the main events, no less.
Yeah. And then they flashed up a match graphic that said, up later, Finn Balor versus Baron Corbin. I was like, what? Did I just dream that segment? We are getting Corbin Balor as the main event. Thankfully, it seems like it was just a production problem.
Okay.
But yeah, that was momentarily scary. Then we got Bayley and Sasha Banks beating Dana Brooke and Ember Moon. They've started doing this storyline where Evolution is approaching. Titus, as the kind of manager figure he is of Titus Worldwide, or what an awful job he's done though, he wants to get Dana Brooke prepared and get a match at Evolution. Mm-hmm. So that is now the second female storyline on the show, because you can't have more than one.
No.
And it's kind of like, it's also just a storyline that's only Dana Brooke. So there's no real counterpart to this feud. Sasha Banks and Bayley are just there. Ember Moon is just there.
Yeah, why was Ember Moon tagging with Dana Brooke?
Because everyone else is now either a friend of Ronda or Alexa, and they're in that bit over there.
Oh, I see.
And Roode, the Riott squad are going to face the Bellas for the next 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Nia Jax is nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, that's a good question, because we haven't seen her since Money in the Bank, have we not?
Yeah,
or was the pay-per-view
she was rehabbing
afterwards?
an injury.
Was the pay-per-view afterwards?
It was Extreme Rules.
Extreme Rules, yeah.
The rematch.
I was really confused at the start of this as well, because Sasha's music hits, and Michael Cole says, it's boss time. But then the graphic just says, Bayley. Mm. And I was like, so I'd written down Sasha Banks, and I was like, oh no, that's wrong. It's Bayley versus Dana Brooke.
Like a singles match, yeah.
And then Ember Moon came around, and I was like, is it a triple threat? And then it was a tag match, and I was like, wait, what?
It was really weird, because not only it was just that name bar graphic, when Bayley walked out, it was like she was in mid-conversation with Sasha Banks. She was just talking to him normally.
Yeah.
It was really weird and off-putting, considering all the usual sexy Sasha side hip thing and Bayley wacky waving, flailing inflatable arm tube men stuff. But yeah, this was a fine match. I enjoy Brooke wrestling. I think she's quite fun when she does all her flips and stuff.
Although they did manage to botch a tag.
yeah. And the Moon kind of tagged, rolled out, had to roll back in and tag in.
Yeah.
But the thing was that it was a short match. Titus Worldwide is screaming at Vice. This distracts Dana. That's the reason she loses, not because she's not on Banks and Bayley's level.
Yeah.
And Brooke storms off.
I felt really bad for Ember Moon in this match. Poor old Ember Moon.
Never had an actual storyline on Raw.
Nope.
She was called up in April.
Well, I mean, speaking of that, we'll come on to this with Lashley, I suppose. But also the commentators just couldn't stop talking about Triple H and Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker.
Well, this doesn't matter.
Well, that's it. Yeah, that's pretty much what that said to me. It was like, none of this really matters. What you should focus on is the fact that HBK and Taker are in the ring. And what a privilege it is for Renee to be able to witness that moment on a commentary desk.
Oh. Renee, you lucky thing.
So onto that Bobby Lashley thing, I was going to sort of spin off from that on. So Lashley has been back with his company since April?
Yes.
They still have no idea what they're doing with him. Like,
they've tried a few things, haven't they? But it's like, why are you trying things when you've got a clear blueprint of what works?
Yeah. But that won't work in this company.
Yeah,
it's like
that's not our idea.
It's like when Goldberg first came in, like in 2004, and they were like, yeah, but WCW went out of business, so clearly that never worked.
So clearly the answer is to make him wrestle 10, 15-minute matches week in, week out.
And put him in a gold wig.
So yes, Bobby Lashley has had this kind of character revamp since SummerSlam.
Oh, is he really?
Where he is joshing with Baron Corbin. It's like a passive-aggressive thing where Lashley will be very sarcastic to Corbin and do things that he says, but then like kick ass.
Okay.
And it's a terrible waste of Lashley, in my opinion. I've seen that some people are getting a kick out of it. I'm not. And this segment opens with Lashley just standing outside of Corbin's office with a sheet of paper. And Charlie Caruso's like, what's that piece of paper there, my man? And Bobby Lashley says, oh, my man, it's my performance review that my man Baron Corbin just gave me. It says I've got anger issues and I've got to go and do a live meditation with Jinder Mahal in the middle of the ring. Just the worst parts of pro wrestling.
The bit that made me laugh the most was not just Lashley saying "my man" all the time, and which just makes me think of Aquaman in Justice League. With like, "My man,
my man,"
and I'm like, "Oh, this is the Aquaman you've chosen to go with. That's brave." The bit that made me laugh the most is when he called Jinder Mahal Jinder Hall.
Jinder Hall.
He just went with my man Jinder Hall.
Maybe he thought that was the directions to the lobby area. Oh yes, in Jinder Hall.
Just go down Jinder Hall.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then this actually happened. Like I thought, kind of. I just like
2 weeks off I've had of this show. I'm deep into the third hour here, and this is what I'm presented with.
I just
welcome back.
Even when they said meditation session with Jinder Mahal, when they've done the similar bits recently, it's been backstage, and this went through a lot of people, and to have a meditation session with all three men, Jinder, Sunil, and Bobby, sitting cross-legged on a rug in the middle of the ring. It died a death. It was goofy. Bobby Lashley kept on saying, my man.
But also, you missed the key comedy moment, though, which is when Jinder says, repeat after me. And Bobby went, repeat after me. And he was like, no, not that bit. And Bobby says, no, not that bit. Because he was repeating him, you see. And hilarity ensued. I mean, my note is that the crowd is so effing dead. And he just kept saying, my man.
It's because it killed them.
It really did.
WWE committed mass homicide here. They killed a crowd with this segment.
This was so embarrassing.
So this was bad. And, that's what WWE do. Lashley's not doing anything at the moment. Jinder Mahal is one of the biggest rises and falls of someone who was not really like a pet project kind of character. In recent memory, I think, thinking of where he was last year. But fine. Okay, of course we've got a freaking meditation segment with Bobby Lashley weirdly saying my man every couple of minutes.
Is this worse than the sisters?
No. Right?
The smiling into the camera, I love you.
Because at least, Lashley is behaving like this is a joke and everything.
Yeah, he was making fun of it.
Yeah. So, but it's still spectacularly lame.
Oh, yes, this is lame.
But what kind of annoyed me more, just from, failed potential, because this never had any potential. This was just an already stupid idea waste. Kevin Owens makes his return after quitting Raw last week after that fantastic match with Seth Rollins, and it was genuinely the most intriguing narrative thing that was going on in WWE, really. What's going to happen with Owens? Is he going to return as a babyface? Is he going to come back with Paul Heyman? No, he's going to return 7 days later and just attack Bobby Lashley. It's kind of like WWE, you're like, oh, Sami Zayn's out injured now. He was feuding with Bobby Lashley, so let's just have Owens in there the month after. I hated this. I hated it. And Owens did the big pop-up powerbomb to Lashley on the apron. And Owens' performance was good, but you need to keep him out longer. He shouldn't be making his return any earlier than Hell in a Cell, and that's only 2 weeks away. It's not like it's a long time to hold off. I prefer you keep him out longer. Oh, I hated this. I hated this so bad.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't around for Owens quitting, so like him just coming back 7 days later.
You should watch that match. The
yeah,
Rollins
I've heard
match
it was really good. Yeah. So him coming back a week after hasn't like been like, oh, what's the point of all of this? Like as much as it probably should have done. But it did make me think like, if you were doing the storyline of him quitting, like why did he walk to the back? Like, why didn't he just sort of walk out the arena? And then you still could have done this thing like he doesn't work here anymore, but he's attacking people at ringside. And maybe if you'd have gone in that direction, I could have been on board with that as an interesting. But then he just came out during the main events anyway, so I'm like, no, I guess he's just back then.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm not as angry as you are, although I think you were quite right in your anger. To me, it was just cool, I guess.
Yeah. I love Owens so much. So like he really is one of my favourites, and it's just all these false starts. I think they're going to do something with him. They put the freaking Universal Championship on the guy, and it was a waste of a run. Let's be honest. What else can you expect? The main event was Finn Balor versus Braun Strowman. Corey Graves gets an update on his phone just before this match begins. The Shield have been released from prison.
I mean, hopefully the police can give him a ride back.
Well, why didn't they say broken out? Like, if you're going to do this stupid storyline, can't they just break out of prison?
Oh my God, that would have been so
It'd been
rad.
much better.
That would have been rad. Like, we just had a report, the whole wall's come down.
Yeah.
Like, there's just shield-shaped holes.
Yes.
And they just ran at them.
So that's the thing in the background. So, of course, they're going to come back at some point. It was really cool seeing Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler at ringside with the championship belts, even though the pairing with Braun Strowman is a bit mismatched.
It's just randomly thrown together because we need a 6-man tag for Super Showdown or whatever it is.
And Balor and Strowman, I think they've got very good chemistry, actually. Balor knows how to work with a character like Braun.
And I also really liked the commentators were putting this over that 2 weeks ago, I'm trying to remember his name, Balor took Roman Reigns to the limit and he nearly won the Universal Championship off of him. But here, Strowman just beat him easily. And they were like, and so Strowman's facing Roman 2 weeks in the Hell in a Cell. Like, what's Roman going to do? I think that was actually a nice way to sort of tell the story of this match.
Yeah. I mean, when you step out, though, and look at the wider scheme of things, you're like, oh, so that means Finn Balor was fed to Braun Strowman to feed to Roman Reigns. So it's all one big feeding of the big dog.
Well, haven't you come up with this thing that he's a black hole and things just sort of fall into it now?
Yes, like a brie hole.
Brie hole.
It's the event horizon where light can no longer escape a black hole.
That Paul W.S. Anderson movie with Sam Neill.
Yes, yeah. It's you know, there's that really good bit in Event Horizon where they get a video feed.
That's a sentence that's never been said, by the way.
It's a great movie. Oh my God!
I'm messing with you.
There's a really horrifying bit in it. It's one of those things that stays with you forever, for me at least. And it's
the naked lady bit.
It's they find this video or like a recording on the spaceship, and it essentially shows a clip of hell in this other dimension that the previous ship had gone to. And there's just all this weird stuff going on in it. People, like a guy vomits arms. And it's just such a horribly demonic imagery. I think you could have switched that out for the Bobby Lashley meditation segment, and it still would be equally horrific. So Balor and Strowman have a good match. I did enjoy it. And Strowman wins with a power slam. Quite significantly, one power slam. Because I really liked that match back in May when Strowman was a face and Balor gave him good competition. So almost to honour Balor, Strowman put him away with 2 power slams. But this was just 1 power slam. I don't know if they put that much thought into it, but that's what I got from it. And then, as the heels are beating down Balor afterwards, they're going...
Cesaro was about to make an entrance.
They're going to powerbomb Finn on the steel steps. The police van backs into the arena.
Yeah, with Roman driving.
Of course he is. I'm surprised he didn't drive it into Braun like he did with the last vehicle he drove. And Roman comes round, opens the doors, and there's Dean and Seth inside. I thought it was really fun.
Yeah, it's goofy, but it's wrestling.
a lot of people, and like, this is good goofy. This
Yes.
isn't Lashley meditation goofy.
Absolutely not.
I've seen a lot of people be sniffy about this. Like,
Of course they have.
oh, it's Labour Day. I don't think they'll find a judge at 7 p.m. to clear them and get them out of prison. I mean, yeah, how? I've never been heard of anything turning around in the judicial process, which is, not the most streamlined in this country. How they got out so quick.
Those are the people that write corrections on IMDb.
Exactly.
They said they were flying a Boeing 747, but actually, if you look at the markings on the interior, it's actually not that plane at all.
And sometimes we're those guys. I know that.
It's just fun to do the voice, though.
Yeah, but this like I thought this was fun. And there's such a rich tradition of stealing official vehicles and driving them back to the arena you were arrested in.
Yeah.
So I didn't mind it at all. But what I did mind again was Kevin Owens coming out to sort of fend off the Shield attacking the heels, because it was just all the bad guys from the locker room.
And Drew Gulak.
Yeah, that was weird.
It was really. I was like, is that Drew Gulak? Because I saw Mike Kanellis in the Ascension, and I'm like, well, it's odd that they're there. But then I thought, why is Drew Gulak there?
I would have preferred just a beatdown from Strowman and Mac and Dolph. I don't think you needed another locker room emptying angle.
But I think this was more to put over the Corbin let it happen.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I guess that's kind of the story they're telling, is that now that Corbin is in charge, the heels are sort of running wild, and the hounds of justice need to step up and fight off against every single heel on the roster, which means I'd imagine that's what they're going to do next week. The Shield will win like this, a 12-on-3 match.
Randy Orton, John Cena style.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like when DX were tag team champions and all they did was just bury every other tag team.
I wonder if this is going to end in a Kurt Angle, a Team Angle versus Team Corbin match at
Survivor Series. That's where, with either man's job on the line. That's like, if Angle wins, he's reinstated. If
God, Angle better lose.
And it'll be the Shield and the Revival, and who else would be in there? Bobby maybe, against Mac and Dolph and Strowman, the whoever the hell, Kevin Owens and whoever else was on the outside. Maybe the Ascension. I don't know.
Drew Gulak.
Yeah, and Drew Gulak.
Gulak.
But yeah, I'd imagine they'll do maybe a big 7-on-7 tag match at Survivor Series.
Which could be really fun.
Be different than doing Raw versus SmackDown, which so far has meant sweet FA. Do you remember when Raw won last year? Yeah. When Triple H and Braun Strowman had that moment?
When Triple H won it for both Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah, and it led to Nout.
Yeah, when the heel locker room emptied, it really exposed how lacking the heel side on Raw is.
Isn't it just?
The Ascension, like you said, Mike Kanellis.
Mojo's out there.
Yeah.
And Jinder, and I was like, this is your heel side. No wonder you had to turn Strowman heel.
Yeah. And like Owens was out there again, and like you said, that was a huge problem for me.
Because he's teaming with Braun.
Yeah, which was one of the reasons he was driven out of the company last week.
Yeah.
I really hated that logic hole.
Yeah.
That Brie hole. I gave this 3 out of 5 though, because I did enjoy a lot here, and I'm optimistic about the tag division.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of positives to be having this. I certainly think it was a newsworthy show as well. I think I'd have also gone 3 out of 5.
So not the best show ever, not the worst show ever.
No, but
sometimes it was fine.
But sometimes if you give a show a 4 out of 5, we're still being too negative.
Yes.
So I think this is very much a middle of the road show. Some good, some very, very, very bad. And Brie missing dives.
That was a bit of both, really. It was kind of like depressing, but also rather funny at the same time. Particularly that first one.
It was just watching her take 25,000 steps to the ropes, though.
Yeah.
It was almost like, when you're running like the Scooby-Doo.
Yes.
Where you're sort of just running in place
Skittles,
and everything's moving past you.
Because I kept on saying on the podcast, when I hear Brie mode, I just feel like everything goes into dreaded slow motion.
Yeah.
And she somehow managed to fall through gravity in slow motion on that first dive. But that's all we've got time for today. Please click the videos that have just appeared on our laps to catch up with the latest WrestleTalk awesome things. And this button right here, which will make you a pledge hammer on Patreon so we can make weekly NXT reviews happen. I've been Ollie Davis. This has been Luke Owen. And that was Rambling. Oh.
How are the Patreons?
Oh, they were doing really well. So we were...